The sun was beginning to set over the quiet town of Riverview, casting a golden glow over the rooftops and winding streets. It was the kind of evening that felt like a gentle sigh at the end of a long day, peaceful, still, and comforting. But beneath that calm sky, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Jake Holloway, a 38-year-old single father, was driving home in his old, battered blue Ford truck. His hands were calloused from years of manual labor, his eyes tired but full of purpose. After losing his wife, Anna, to cancer 5 years ago, Jake had devoted himself entirely to raising his daughters, Emily, now 9, and Sophie, 5. They were his world, his reason to breathe. Every morning began with braiding ponytails and packing lunches, and every night ended with bedtime stories and whispered prayers. He worked as a local delivery driver, picking up odd jobs wherever he could, furniture, groceries, even landscaping gear. Money was tight, but love was abundant in their modest home. Jake had learned to be both mother and father, protector and provider, laughter and lullaby. That evening, he had just finished a long shift delivering equipment to a nearby construction site. As he turned onto Maplewood Drive, just a few blocks from home, something caught his eye. At first, it seemed like a scuffle between teenagers. But as his headlights illuminated the scene, Jake's stomach dropped. A young girl, maybe 12 or 13, was being dragged toward a black sedan by two grown men. One had a hand clamped over her mouth, the other was forcing open the back door. Jake's heart pounded. For a split second, fear rooted him to the seat. But then, instinct kicked in. The instinct of a father. He slammed on the brakes, causing his truck to screech and fishtail to a stop. Without thinking, he yanked the wheel and swerved across both lanes, blocking the sedan's path entirely. The truck stood like a wall, an unmoving, defiant shield. The two men turned, startled by the sudden obstacle. One reached inside his coat and pulled out what looked like a flashlight, but he held it like a weapon. Jake didn't wait. He flung open his door and charged, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Let her go," he bellowed. The man with the flashlight lunged, swinging hard. Jake ducked, grabbed the man by the waist, and tackled him to the ground with a force he didn't know he had. Years of lifting boxes and wrangling kids had made him strong, and desperate love made him stronger. The second man panicked, tried to flee with the girl, but her foot caught on the curb. She fell, and he took off running. Jake stood up, bloody lip and all, and stood protectively between the girl and the retreating figure. "Are you okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. The girl was shaking. Her eyes were wide, glassy with tears. "I don't know who they were," she whispered. "They said my mom sent them, but she didn't." People began pouring out of nearby homes. Porch lights flicked on. A woman screamed. Someone called 911. Police arrived within minutes, and both men were arrested a few blocks away. The girl, Lily Grace Thompson, was taken to the hospital for evaluation. Jake sat beside her until her mother arrived, breathless and sobbing. But Jake couldn't stop thinking about her. A few days later, he visited the hospital again. This time, he brought Emily and Sophie. Lily was shy at first, but when Sophie handed her a crayon drawing of the three girls holding hands, Lily burst into tears and hugged them tightly. Over the next few weeks, Jake learned more about Lily's life. Her mother was working 3 jobs, and they were living in a rundown motel on the edge of town. Lily spent most of her afternoons alone, walking to and from school, often with no one to talk to. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was at play. One evening, Emily crawled into Jake's lap and asked, "Daddy, can Lily come live with us? She doesn't have a sister." Jake smiled, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "We'll see." But that night, as he sat on the porch watching fireflies blink in the summer air, Jake made a decision. He began researching how to become a foster parent. He went to meetings, filled out paperwork, endured home inspections, and sat through interviews that brought up painful memories. It wasn't easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. 3 months later, in a quiet courtroom filled with soft smiles and teary eyes, a judge looked at Jake and said, "You are now the official foster parent of Lily Grace Thompson." Jake's voice cracked as he whispered, "Thank you." Lily clutched his hand, and Emily and Sophie cheered. In that moment, their little family grew, not by blood, but by bravery. News of Jake's heroism spread. A local journalist wrote a piece titled, "The Truck That Blocked Darkness." People from across the country sent letters, some even offering scholarships for Lily's education. One woman, a survivor of abduction herself, donated books and supplies to Jake's home. Another family in a neighboring town was inspired to begin fostering as well. Jake never saw himself as a hero. He was just a dad doing what dads do, protecting the innocent. But to Lily, and to many others, he became something more. Today, their home is filled with laughter, chaos, and a fridge covered in mismatched artwork. Lily excels in school, dreams of becoming a child psychologist. She wants to help other kids feel safe the way Jake made her feel safe. And Jake? He still drives his old blue truck. Still works long hours. But now, when he turns the corner onto Maplewood Drive, he often slows down, not just out of caution, but out of reverence. Because it was there, in that single moment of courage, that he found something he hadn't expected to find again: hope. Sometimes, heroes don't wear capes or badges. Sometimes, they drive rusty trucks, tell bedtime stories, and answer the cries of a child when no one else can hear. Jake Holloway wasn't looking to be a hero. But the day he blocked the road with his truck, he became one.